Welcome to the Indie Beacon Show, where readers can discover great new indie authors. Find us on all major podcast systems and YouTube. Join B Alan Bourgeois on today's show.
Hi, and welcome to another episode of the Indie Beacon Show. This is your host, B Alan Bourgeois, and I have with me a children's author, Isai Gutierrez. It's one of those Spanish names, and I failed in Spanish, so forgive me. But I'm sure he will correct me if I said it wrong. Welcome, Isai. We appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
So let's start with who you are and what got you to the point of doing the books. I understand you are a school teacher or were a school teacher for several years. So let's start there and tell us a bit about you.
Sure. So I spent most of my professional career as an educator, both in the classroom and as an administrator. And I was born and raised in Houston, Texas. I consider myself a Latino. And because of my education, I've seen the struggles that students have. And then many years ago, I heard someone make a statement that bothered me enough that I wrote this book.
All right. Do I dare ask what the statement was?
Sure. So they were interviewing this gentleman, telling him what a great staff he had. I think he had a coffee shop, and they were saying, you must have a really great training program. And his response was, well, you can't send a duck to Eagle School. And so that bothered me quite a bit. It bothered me because that's a limiting belief, and it opens the door for kind of blind profiling. And so what I believe is that we should be teaching students and children that if you look like a duck and you swim like a duck and you quack like a duck, you can still soar with the eagles. And so I wrote a children's book about a duck that goes to Eagle School.
Okay. So since we're talking about it, let's go ahead and dive into the book here. The fact that he goes to Eagle School is one aspect, but he has a lot of trials and tribulations along the way. Is that correct?
Oh, yes, absolutely. So I'm not the kind of person who pats myself on the back, but I am very pleased with the amount of depth that I was able to get into this children's story. And for me, it being an author and being a father and an educator, that's kind of what it's all about. And so on the surface, it may seem like a simple children's story, but there is a lot of depth to it. It covers, bullying and finding your own way and believing in yourself and not letting others, tell you who you're going to be. So there is a lot of depth and other themes that are covered in the book.
Okay. And of course, we won't talk about how it finishes, whether he actually soars with the eagles or not. We're going to let people read the book and find out. But let's talk about those trials and tribulations, because a lot of the things you just said, all kids from elementary all the way through high school go through. So as an educator, how did you address those issues?
That's a great question. I don't know if this is going to be the right answer, but let me try and get there. To me, the least common denominator in anything is always children. And so if I can take these complex ideas and address them and explain them in a way that a child, a young person can understand them, that's what I try and do. You try and make things as simple as humanly possible, including these complex lessons, so that people can learn through them. And when you look at what's going on in the world today, a lot of it is, how is all of this happening? And parents are looking for ways to talk to their children about what's going on in the world. And I think if they read this book to their children, it will help them open up a dialogue about many different things.
Now, in the respect of the duck, he is a duck, but he wants to soar with the eagles. And so he has to overcome his limitations, or what he believes is his limitations in that aspect. Is that correct?
That is correct. And so, again, along the way, I don't know how many, the listeners out there remember what it's like to be, a tween. The book is written at a Lexile level that's between 400 and 600, which means the reading level is between a 4th and a 6th grade level. And intentionally, that's the age where you transition from elementary to middle school. And that transition from middle school, people remember, some of your friends stay with you, some of them go away, and you choose to do things differently than some of your friends. And so this book kind of encompasses a lot of those things. He has difficulty with some of his friends, and he has difficulty with some of the people that he meets, just like some of his friends accept what he's doing, and some of the people that he meets accept what he's doing. And so again, it speaks a lot to those transitions in life. And he learns his greatest lesson when he faces his biggest fear. And his greatest lesson, is something that all mothers know. And so, again, I hope people will go and read the book and go, wait a minute, what is it that all mothers know? Because he goes and, and he tells his mother, I want to go to Eagle School, and she knows what all mothers know. And so she tells him, go talk to Great Mother Eagle. And Great Mother Eagle also knows what all mothers know. And so she lets him into Eagle School. And so, that's the ultimate, one of the ultimate lessons that he learns when he faces his biggest fear. And so, again, there's that kind of depth into the book that I was pleased that as an author that I was able to get out of the book.
All right, now realizing that these are wild animals, the ducks, the eagles, and whatever, was social media in any way played into the book?
Not really, no. Although, oddly enough, when the book was released was during a time of quite a bit of turmoil. It was, when the pandemic hit, when George Floyd, had been killed. And so there certainly there was a lot of turmoil going on. But in terms of just, social media, I wanted the book to be not to hold a place in time. I truly wanted it to be timeless. And to me, by adding things like social media or cell phones or those kind of things, you're kind of locking yourself in to kind of a specific time and place. And I really wanted to reach beyond that, to be timeless. And so bullying is timeless. I mean, regardless of how far, along we move in our society, there's always going to be bullies. There's always going to be, you're always going to try and search for your identity and who you are. And so I think this book speaks a lot to that.
Yeah, and that is definitely one item right now. Personal identity, no matter what it is, that is, not only political, but emotional and so many other things. So, which brings up a question. You have a duck, and of course you have eagles. What other wild animals do you have?
Actually, that's pretty much it right now, is the duck and the eagle. Now my next book, I kind of am stuck on this theme for now. Everyone asks me if there's going to be a sequel. Miguel goes to welding school or whatever. There's not. But my next book is going to deal with all of the animals in the zoo. And so I've already started writing that one. The title is going to be The Very Scary Rhino. And so that book is in the works as we speak. And
I'm going to stop you right there because I don't want to give away anything, because we're going to say that for the second half of the show.
Okay.
But we'll definitely talk about that. What has been the response from school kids for your book?
Oh man, I love the response from the school kids and the parents too. I did a reading with fourth grade students where I read the book and I asked them to find the themes. I told them, I intentionally try to put a lot of themes into the book. And I told them there's going to be a test after I finish reading. I'm going to ask you what you think those themes are. And I've done that a couple times with a couple different schools. And right away, they're pulling out the themes, and the multiple themes, not just one, but the kids get it. And for me as an author, again, that is the best accolade that I could get, right? When the students are understanding kind of what you're trying to put out there in a deep and meaningful way, and they're getting it. And so I appreciate that quite a bit. It's awesome.
I can understand that. And with that, we're going to take a break and let our sponsors do their thing. We'll be right back.
Marianne Fairmouth is a career consultant with 30 years experience in the national recruiting world, a multi-award winning author in multi-genres, and a speaker that gives presentations to help you succeed. Her book, Revolutionary Recruiting, made the top 20 global list of recruiting books. Find her on Amazon, your favorite bookstore, or at Fairmont.com.
To embrace your children's imagination, check out Diane Floyd Bame's books for kids. There's The Moonling Adventures, all about the animals in the Serengeti. And then there's Harry the Camel, learning to love yourself just the way you are. Then The Little Girl in the Moon. There's one about friendship, another one about the big ideas, which is an inspirational story. And then Tour Tycho Town, right there in Tycho Crater on the moon. All of Diane Floyd Bame's books are available at B4R store.
Hello, I am the author Denise Bryson. My first book is The Things That Cross My Mind, Inspirational Poetry with Life Lessons. And then my audio book is Love's Reality, and it is also inspirational poetry with a jazzy flair. And then my new book is The Sex, the Lies, and the Soul Ties. They're really short stories written from a poetic expression. And then I have my first children book series, the Blinky series, which the first book is called Meet the Coins, and it is both in English and Spanish. And then the new book, From Coins to Bills. I am the author, Denise Bryson.
Welcome to the Indie Beacon Show, where readers can discover great new indie authors. Find us on all major podcast systems and YouTube. Join B Alan Bourgeois on today's show.
Alrighty, and welcome back to the Indie Beacon Show. This is your host, B Alan Bourgeois. We have been talking with Mr. Gutierrez about his first book, and now we're going to go into a little bit about his newest book he's working on. A Very Scary Day with a Rhino, is that correct?
It's called The Very Scary Rhino.
A Very Scary Rhino, okay. So tell us a bit about why it's a scary day with a rhino.
So the premise of the book is that it's Rhino's first day at the zoo, and all the other animals are afraid of him. But like the elephant's afraid of him because he's so big, even though the elephants are big. Or, you know, one of the animals is afraid of him because he has horns and they have horns. And so what they really don't know is that the rhinoceros is just as afraid of them as they are of him. And so there's this idea that a lot of times we're afraid of other people, even though they're just like us. And it's not until we get to know who they are that we break down those barriers. And so there's a few kind of other things as well. You know, that the idea that the rhino has been brought to this zoo and put in a pen, even though he was free where he used to live, but it was dangerous. So he needed to come to a place where he was put in a pen. And even though he's surrounded by all these animals, he feels more alone than he ever has before. And so again, that's kind of the premise of the book, and it includes all of the animals. Doing a little research, there is, I didn't know this, but there is an animal that has a horn. I forget the name of the animal. I wrote it down somewhere. That's extinct everywhere except for in the zoo, which I thought was pretty interesting. And so I want to make sure that that animal gets into the book, and so that there is some sort of science behind it. And the animal that breaks down the barriers between all of them is an oxpecker bird. For those of you who don't know, an oxpecker is the one that stands on back of the oxen and the other animals and pecks off the bugs. And his name is Plover, because Plover is kind of a mythical animal that they say used to stand in the alligator's mouth and pick the bugs out of his teeth. And so his name is Plover, the oxpecker. And so this idea that this little bird, is not afraid of any of the big animals, and is willing to be the intermediary between all of these animals to show them that, hey, we can all get along. So that's the kind of the premise of The Very Scary Rhino.
Okay. So basically, if I understand correctly, it's much of, while they may look different, there's always something in common with each of them.
Correct. And again, it's this idea that there's a deeper theme, that even though it's animals in a zoo and it's a children's book, again, that whole least common denominator is that we need to be looking at our similarities and not our differences, because again, that's kind of where I believe we are as a society. It's one of the reasons why I wrote Miguel Goes to Eagle School. It's the same thing. It's why are these things going on, and how do we explain them to our children? And if you can explain it in the most simple way that even a child could understand it, then maybe even the adults will go, hey, wait a minute, we really need to look at what we're doing.
So that brings up a question. Are you working on a third, fourth, anything else?
Actually, I am. Again, everyone keeps telling me or asking me if there's a sequel to Miguel, if there's a sequel to Miguel. So I actually have started developing a character that I will write a series of books around a particular character.
Okay. By chance, is it one of the ones that already exists either in Miguel's book or in the Rhino book?
No, this one will actually not even be an animal. It's kind of a superhero character, and it's again kind of going back to the Latin roots. And I see this. It's a female superhero who's a child, and I think the working title is something like Las Aventuras de Maria Luz, Super Kid. And so, again, in the Latino community, there's a lot of back and forth between the English and the Spanish. And so even though she has these superpowers and battles, these big villains, what really makes her a superhero is the ordinary things that she does, like helping her little brother to read, or helping her grandmother sew, helping her mom cook dinner while her mom's holding down multiple jobs. Like it's those things that make her a superhero, and not all of the flying and taking on the supervillains. And so that's kind of the premise of that series of books.
So with the Rhino, when are you anticipating having that out?
It should be out next year, within 6 months. The holdup with the Rhino is, so with Miguel Goes to Eagle School, I didn't know what the process was, and so I hired an illustrator. I went on one of the Upworks and found an illustrator that I think is amazing. Catherine Gutkowski is her name. She's amazing. But it taught me the process, and so now that I know the process, I can do. I'm an artist in my own right. I just wanted to learn how to get it done. Now that I know how to get it done, I'm going to go ahead and illustrate the next books by myself. Although for the series of books, I would love to work with a Latina illustrator, a young Latina illustrator. Seeing how the book centers around a young female Latina, if I could find an illustrator for that who's a Latina and young, I would love to do that. Cool.
Yeah. It'd be good to keep it in the family, as they say.
Exactly.
And hopefully your first book of the series, you're anticipating 2023?
Yes.
Good. Okay. So you've also decided to become a publisher. And so you're helping other people get books published. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So when I went to get my book done, I had written it and I was struggling. And I went to a friend of mine who is a poet, and actually he's a Texas Poet Laureate for 2022, which is pretty awesome. But before any of those accolades, I went to him and I'm like, I have this idea and I'm kind of struggling, and what can I do? And he gave me some strategies on what I could do to finish the book. And I said, I don't even know if I should finish it. And he looked at me and he said, do you know how many Latino children's book authors there are? I said, I have no idea. I really don't. He said, maybe one or two. He said, you have an obligation to finish this book. And that still gives me chills. And so I did. And then I started looking around at how I was going to get this published. And, there's a lot of hybrid publishers out there. And I started realizing that they were going to charge me for things that I could do on my own. And so all I had to do was learn how to do those things. And then the fact that there aren't very many Latino children's book authors out there made me want to help promote other Latinos who are out there doing what I'm doing. There's a few Latino publishing houses, but again, the big publishing houses are overwhelmed. And so there's a lot of voices that are out there that are not being heard. And so I think by starting my own publishing company, it allows me to maintain control of my own work, which I'm kind of a control freak. And so I wanted to control my own work. And so that was part of it. But the other part is promoting the community and voices that may not otherwise be heard. Because again, the big publishing houses, it's all subjective. It's all whether, who and whether you can get a rep who's gonna, do you justice and so it just kind of made sense that I start my own publishing company and do it that way.
Good. Well, this is at a point where we need to step away, let our sponsors do the thing. We'll be right back. Publishing marketing package for authors, a $1,500 value, save 40% now. Includes a 6-piece marketing kit of 250 bookmarks, 250 business cards, 250 postcards, 1 table banner, 1 table runner, and 50 download cards, plus book cover design, ebook creation, PDF setups, upload to Ingram Spark, scroll placement, video commercial, and interview on IBS. Plus much more. Email bourgeoismedia@look.com for details or bourgeoismedia.com.
Hi, I'm Mel Greenberg, author of Running with Our Eyes Closed, book 1 in the Empty Nested series. To the world, Samantha has the perfect life. 3 wonderful children, a loving husband, so she thought, and a life split between Dallas and Italy. When her youngest leaves for college, it all comes crashing down, forcing Samantha to re-examine everything. Over 7 days in one of the most romantic countries in the world, Samantha faces the past she thought she'd overcome and begins to redefine her role as a woman, a wife, and a mother.
What would you do if you had to put your life on hold to care for a loved one? Well, during COVID, almost all of us have been doing just that. I'm Charlotte Canyon, award-winning author, actress, and speaker. And my book, You Have to Laugh to Keep from Crying, shows you how you can revive, thrive, and survive with 4 golden rules. You have to love one another. You have to respect one another. You have to have patience with one another. And most of all, you've got to forgive one another. I'm Charlotte Canyon, and I approve this message.
Welcome to the Indie Beacon Show, where readers can discover great new indie authors. Find us on all major podcast systems and YouTube. Join B Alan Bourgeois on today's show.
And welcome back to the Indie Beacon Show. I am your host for tonight's show. I am B Alan Bourgeois. We have Mr. Gutierrez with us. We've been talking about his first book, The Duck That Wants to Fly Like an Eagle. And he's got several others that we've talked about. But the most important thing is, how can people find your books?
Perfect. So again, I started my own publishing company called Dancing Duck Publishing. And that's my site is dancingduckpublishing.com, or you can go to miguelgoes-to-eagleschool.com. All roads lead to the duck that wants to fly like an eagle. So either dancingduckpublishing.com or miguelgoes-to-eagleschool.com. So I've had the idea of dancing duck for quite a while. When I was working even back with HISD, we had this idea of, when you see a duck, it's smooth across the water, but underneath the feet are flapping away. And so we had come up with this idea of dancing duck. And so, as I wanted to start my own publishing company, I thought, well, that's what it's got to be. So it's pretty easy to remember, dancingduckpublishing.com and miguelgoes-to-eagleschool.com.
Do you have any social media like Twitter?
I'm on Facebook. But Facebook is the dancingduckpublishing.com, and Instagram, I think, is also dancing. You find it through Dancing Duck Publishing.
Okay. And of course, on dancingduckpublishing.com, educators, librarians can reach out to you to have you come in and read to the children, correct?
Absolutely. And I'm glad you brought that up, because I also have uploaded some content, some coloring pages for kids, but also like a word search, in a Venn diagram kind of thing. And there's other support material for the book that I'm going to be uploading as we go along. So especially if you want to register on the site, if you want more content for children, it will be uploaded on the site as well, and all of that's for free. You can also find some of that stuff on Teacher Pay Teacher, which I've uploaded for free. So all the educational content that I put up there, I think education should be free. And so I want to make sure that it's getting out there for everyone.
Perfect. With that in mind, the fact that you started a publishing company, you've written your own books, what word of advice do you have for somebody who wants to get started as a writer or author in the long run?
Yeah, so don't ever give up. It can be done. It's easier now to publish your own book than it's ever been. There's some cautionary tales. Be careful for these hybrid kind of vanity publishing companies. Some of them are good, some of them not so good. So just kind of know what you're getting into. I will give anyone any of the stuff that I've learned for free. So if you want to just reach out to me, I'll tell you what I've learned, the ups and the downs, and where I've wasted money, and I have wasted a lot of money, and what has been worth it to me. And I'll share all of that with you. If you want to self-publish, I'm more than happy to help you self-publish. So that's one thing. The other thing is, publishing your book is not the same thing as marketing and selling your book. And so you need to really understand that really carefully. Because once you publish your book, it's like, okay, so the really cool thing is, and it is really cool, when you go on Amazon and you type in the name of your book and it's there and you can see it in all the stores and it's pretty awesome. But that doesn't mean that it's going to sell. And so if your intent is to, make a living just, writing books and publishing books, you need to know that it's a longer road. And selling your book is not the same thing as publishing your book.
All right. The standard rule in the publishing world these days is writing the book is 10%, marketing is 90% of your success.
And it truly, truly is. And so even as, if you're a fledgling writer and you're starting to write your book, you need to start learning the whole marketing piece and putting yourself out there. But again, when I talk to students, I always tell them, you never stop learning. You will never, ever stop learning. And so for me, this has been an amazing journey. It continues to be an amazing journey in terms of learning. I've learned more through this process than I think I ever learned in college or anywhere else. And my wife is like, are you sure about that? Oh yeah, I'm pretty sure about that. And it's great. And it's also, giving me the mindset or I've seen what future markets are going to look like, or not future markets, but what the future looks like in terms of business. And so, I talked about what a great illustrator I have. I never met her. I never talked to her. I'm having stuffed animals made of Miguel the duck as part of my book. Again, I've never met the people who are doing it or the business. And so there's a lot of that as well. What is the business going to look like in the future in terms of all of these things? And so it's a great learning curve. It's a great experience. Just know, it's a marathon. It's not a race. It's going to take time. It's going to take time, and it's going to take a lot of work.
Exactly. Of those that are instantly famous, it's such a small amount of the population that you really can't even expect that to happen to yourself. We are at the end of our time. I want to thank you very much for being with us. We wish you the best of luck on the book that is currently out and the Rhino and all the others that are coming out soon. And we thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for watching or listening to the Indie Beacon Show, produced by B Alan Bourgeois for the Authors Marketing International LLC. Copyright 2021. Voiceover by B Alan Bourgeois. If you would like to be a sponsor of the show, please email us at authorsmarketing@outlook.com. If you would like to be on the show, please complete the form found on our website at indiebeacon.com. You may also watch previous year's shows on the website. Music is Frolic of Words, created for Indie Beacon